Hi, I'm Allie. Join me for these keyhole earrings, a simple version of the keyhole bracelet that you may have already watched. We're going to be doing square stitch. And remember, if you make any modifications or need anything else, go ahead and comment below the video and help out other Potomac beaters that may be watching and learning along with you. Remember, if you need any materials, look in that description to get links to shop with us online. Gather up your 8OC beads and let's get ready to get started. So just like we did our keyhole bracelet where we added these 6mm disco balls to the center, we're going to create these keyhole earrings. And these square stitch keyhole earrings we are going to keep open in the center, and it's more about learning how to design and to do patterns. In our bracelet sample, we did all one color per little square, and here we're going to make it actually into a square. Now, the reason that this is not actually squared and rectangled is because our 8OC beads that we're using 3 colors, are not perfectly round or square. If you want that, grab some 1.8mm Miyuki cubes or 3mm cubes, or even some of the tiny little crystal cubes. Those would look great in this design. I have a size 10 needle on here, and we're getting ready to do our second one. Now, how did I decide which colors I wanted to do? In the original design that we were producing and having fun with on Twitch, if you ever get a chance to catch us there, I went in and I actually took a Sharpie marker and I started drawing on it so I knew which colors I wanted to do and which beads needed to be which color. You can also print out some graph paper if you want to and color in and do a design. The square stitch often looks like it's done on a loom, but without the loom, you have a little bit more freedom. With my size 8 dragon thread, I'm going to put onto my thread and needle that has a stop bead at the end, a total of 9 8OC beads. These 9 8OC beads, I'm going to work in square stitch in what's called 3 drop. I'm going to go through 3 beads at a time. Once those 9 beads are on, I'm going to let them drop down next to my stop bead, which just has about a 3-inch tail. From here, we're going to start building our design. I'm going to need one more silver on the side, and then I'm going to go into my brighter blue color. So I'm going in with my silver and then my 2 brighter blue beads. Square stitch, we're going to stitch onto the last 3 beads in the design and then come back out through the 3 beads we just added. Taking our thread and needle after we have that group of 3 beads on, silver, blue, blue, we're going to sew back down the last 3 beads of the design. So starting on the end where the stop bead is and sewing back down through those 3 beads. Pulling the thread through them, those will lay right on top of the beads. Now you can see how they're arched over as we go in and build more rows and sew back through the beads that we just added. It will straighten them out. If you notice that you really don't like it to be gapped a little bit, you can also do 1 bead at a time and do each individual. This is just a little bit of a time savings. The next thing I'm going to do is 3 more beads, and these are going to be 3 of my blue color. I'm counting over to the beads next to it, 1, 2, 3, up from the 3 that I just added, and I'm going to once again sew down through those beads with my thread and needle, putting the 3 that I'm adding of those blue beads right beside. See how they lock in there? And then once again taking the thread across the project and back up through the 3 that I just added. Give a nice tight pull, and that will line those up. From here, we're going to do the opposite of what we did at the start. We need 2 blues and then 1 silver, because that silver is going to border the whole design. Now I'm at my stop bead. I'm not sewing through the stop bead. I'm just sewing down those 3 beads that were the starting 3 beads of that group of 9, laying those new 3 beads right along the side, and then back up through those 3 beads and out the very end. At the end of your square stitch, you just want to give a nice tight pull. Again, if you want to have it nice and in line without any gaps whatsoever, which we will correct some of the gaps as we add our 3rd row, you can do each individual bead square stitching in the same fashion and same design. After you have your 2nd row completed, we're going to do the 3rd row. The 3rd row is going to start adding in our 3rd color, because when you look on it on the side here, we're going to go in and make sure that interior box is a darker blue. So this one here, we're going to do 1 of our silver, because that's going to line the exterior of the box. We're going to do 1 of our brighter blue and 1 of our darker blue. Remember, if you ever need the colors that are listed exactly, go ahead below the video to the description. You can click there and we'll list all the supplies on our website on this items page. From here then, just like we did square stitch on the way up, we're going to do square stitch basically on the way back. I'm going to keep it this way so you can see which way it goes up and back, but you can, if you like to sew away from you, simply flip the design. So I have 3 new beads on and I'm sewing down. So I have my silver, my lighter blue, and my darker blue. I'm going to sew back up through those 3 beads that my thread is coming out of. Pull that thread nice and tight against the design and then sew down into those 3 beads that my thread was that I just added. Give a nice tight pull. And this whole row here, those 3 in the middle are going to get added that darker blue color. 1, 2, 3 get added. Count down beads, 1, 2, 3. So back up through those 3. Let's sit below it. So it kind of circles around. You can see I pull the thread tightly across, not the needle. I pull the thread. So back down through the beads that you just added. And if you need a little bit more help with this square stitch, we'll also put on the landing page our video showing how to do square stitch, as well as link to the keyhole bracelet as well. So when we're going back down then this last row, we want to do 1 more of our blue, 1 more of our teal color, or that nice kind of robin's egg blue, and then another one of the silver. I'm going to sew back up through the beads, the 3 that sit right next to it, and add that third row right in there. Once again, just like we've been doing, coming down through the 3 that you just added to finish off that 3rd row of your square stitch. Now in the keyhole bracelet, I did use 15 O's to decorate the sides. I'm just leaving them off here because I don't think they're going to add much to the look. From here, we are going to build up the side. Here, we're going to build, or sorry, down the bottom here, we're going to build down the side, and then we're going to connect to the top. As we start our 4th row here, you can see I added silver, turquoise, blue, circling back around then through the design. I'm going to leave that center or that keyhole open. So we're going to kind of come back on the design, doing the opposite. So we're doing the darker blue, the turquoise color, and then the silver. We're going to sew back in to the project. I'm just going to get that color combo to lay next to it. If you can't keep track of your colors, just lay them out. It's quite easy. From here then, we're going to do another one of that same pattern. So we're going away from us. So we're going to do the silver, lighter blue, darker blue, square stitch that in, back through the 3 beads your thread is coming out of, and then back through the 3 beads you just added. Now at this point here, I actually want to close up my keyhole. So I need to come out here and continue my square stitch. To do so, I know that I want to add my blue, so my darker blue is going to go on there. And then my next combo is going to be my darker blue, my lighter blue, and my silver. Now, why is that? When you let this drop down against your project, you're going to see that that lines up that design right there. So you're still in your color form and you're still in your color order that you're going to get those nice squared keyholes. From here, we're going to work backwards in our square stitch and do 2 rows of square stitch and then combine it together. So to do so, I'm going to do my silver, my turquoise, and my bayberry. I'm going to pull that down next to the design and fold it over, and we're going to sew back through the last 3 beads from this long row that we just did. Naturally, it's just going to kind of progress towards the opening there. You can see you're kind of progressing the opposite way. Go ahead and sew through that design again, doing that square stitch. Once again, we're going to do 1 more, bayberry, Nile, silver, square stitch that on. So it looks like we're expanding and kind of zigzagging, creating this little S. But when you come out of the last one there, after adding those 3 rows on, the long one, and then we added 2 more square stitch rows to it, we're going to fold it back along the design. So down through row number 3, the first 3 beads there, and we're just literally square stitching it together. Down through, and then back up through that 3rd row. From here, we're going to snake through the design and get down so that we're coming out of the last row that we did. So I'm going down the next row of that ladder stitch, and I'm going up through those 3 beads and exiting. Once I'm towards that outer edge now, I know that my darker blue is done. That keyhole is completely done. That opening is there. And I know that I need my silver and my blue still, because my silver is going to be the exterior. And now my blue, 1 and 2 beads, because I'm always doing groups of 3, are going to continue that outer box. So basically we have 3 boxes going on as you're thinking about which beads to pick up. Once you have those on, once again, 3 beads get added down through the 3 that are right there next to it, and then up through the beads that you just added. I'm going to, of course, need 2 more beads, 1 more bead, 1 more of my blue bead, and a couple more silvers to complete this last row. You can change up this design, make it wider, make it more rows, which would do 4 boxes then inside of one another, and really have fun creating a rainbow of color. This last one for my 3rd row on the right side is going to be 2 of that turquoise color to close up that square, back up through, completing that square stitch. And then my very last row to complete this design is going to be that entire row of silver, because that entire row of silver is going to wrap the whole way around. So I'm going to go in now and square stitch on 3 silver, 3 more silver, and follow with the last of those 3 silvers. Once you have your final row completed, what we want to do is put a wire guard with, I just decorated with 1 of those little brighter blue beads. Because I have a count of 9, I'm going to go back to the center of the design to that odd bead, bead number 5 along that top. So how I'm going to get there, I'm going to sew down through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads on the 2nd row in. Then just like our square stitch, I'm going to sew up through the 5th silver bead from the 2nd row to that top row. Coming out there, grab one of my turquoise beads, grab a wire guard. I'm going to grab my pliers and just pinch that ever so slightly together, making sure that I'm not damaging the loops that are in there. Go up through the wire guard, down through the opposite side of your wire guard. Once you're down through there, I want you to go back down through the 8. And then just like we've done with everything kind of circling out, making sure that it's even, we're coming out of bead number 5 on the left-hand side. We want to sew into the right. So that way, that wire guard and that bead are going to sit right above and centered above the piece. Because nothing's worse than when you have a wire guard kind of flopping off to the side. You want to make sure that it sits in the center. From here, I'm going to finish that square stitch. These are a nice light pair of earrings. I'm going to finish that last silver row, taking my thread and needle all the way to the end. And now what I'm going to do is get my thread and needle down to that starter bead. To do so, we're going to weave back and forth. So I'm going to go from row number 9 there. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, row 8, down through row 7, up through row 6, from here down through 5. I know 5 stops in the middle. Here's your opportunity to put something in it if you want. Up through 4, down through 3, the whole way. It's just kind of reinforcing it. Up through 2, and then take that stop bead off and tie these 2 thread ends together. If you're worried that you're going to see the thread on the end, you can take that thread out to the middle of the project between some of the 2 beads. Once I have those 2 knots there, I'm going to take my thread and needle that's still attached down through row number 1, down through that silver row. Line that up, just wiggle your needle through there. Separating out those 2 thread ends then, 1 on one side, 1 to the other. Scissors, thread burner, cut the one side, cut the other side. I'm going to do my thread burner, and then open up your ear wire and stick on your keyhole earrings. Nice and simple, Totally fun to change up the designs, change up the size of the bead, the shape of the bead if you want to go with a square rather than a round, and piece these together. Great little gifts to use up some oddball seed beads. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these nice square stitch keyhole earrings. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, check out that square stitch keyhole bracelet, popping the crystals on the interior. Remember, if you need anything ever, go ahead and look below the video in the description, hit that little show more button, and that'll take you to a link that lists out the exact supplies that you need, colors and all. As always, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, Potomac Beaters, and stay tuned for our next inspirational design.